O.J. Simpson, Caitlin Clark, the Masters, and why are field hockey sticks so little? A wonderful mess with Brian Kilmeade. It's the Will Cain Show on demand, Cain On Sports, every Friday by subscribing at Apple, Spotify, or at Fox News Podcast, or going over to YouTube and subscribing to the Will Cain Show. You can keep up with every Friday episode of Cain On Sports of the Will Cain Show. Today, we are joined by the host of Fox and Friends and the host of the Brian Kilmeade Show on Fox News Radio to discuss the death of O.J. Simpson and then just a mess of stream of consciousness across the world of sports, as is always the case when you talk with Brian Kilmeade. Brian Kilmeade, co-host of Fox and Friends. I was really excited to have you on the show today to talk about the death of O.J. Simpson, because I was told, while everybody else is saying O.J. Simpson, murderer, burn in hell, you actually have a unique take, something you have to say that you'd like to speak kindly and praise O.J. Simpson.
Okay, I bet I would fire your researcher and your background check and your personal assistant, as well as the producer of your podcast and the one sponsoring it. I'd also like to apologize to your sponsors. I have to make the host look bad and actually say...
Oh, I'm misinformed?
Yes, you are well misinformed. Is anyone praising him? Didn't even Caitlyn Jenner say good riddance or something to that degree? They were once best friends.
You know, that's actually why I messed around with you here at the beginning. It's like everybody's saying the same thing. Yeah, OJ's terrible. But Mark Lamont Hill, former CNN contributor, tweeted the following. O.J. Simpson was an abusive liar who abandoned his community long before he killed two people in cold blood. His acquittal for murder was the correct and necessary result of a racist criminal legal system, but he's still a monster, not a martyr.
Well, that's a little interesting. I know Mark Lamont Hill. He used to come on Fox News a lot. I found him really intriguing, but he is way out there, way to the left, and he also is an agitator. He wants people to comment on him, like Will Cain on your very successful podcast. My take is this. There's a couple of things, and I can't take credit for this. I'm on the air with Mike Rowe, which is not the perfect guest for OJ's death, but I'm on the air, and I know OJ's dead. Okay, so he said, he took a deep breath, and he did a Will Cain, and he said, do you realize that's the first time we stopped believing what we were seeing and we know it was right? And I go, really? Like they tell us now the border is sealed. There was no crisis. We know it's different. They tell us crime is going down. We know that's not the case. You know, they tell us leaving Afghanistan was a fantastic thing. Listen to Admiral Kirby. They tell us the economy's going great, but you talk to people, they don't feel that way. He says it really started in 94. He says it started when we watched that. We were all talking about it. Hundreds of millions of people talking about it every day. It was a real-life soap opera, and we knew he was guilty. We knew he almost killed himself, and A.J. Callings basically admitted to it. We knew Kardashian stole the clothes and hid him somewhere. Kardashian clearly knew he was guilty, and then we found out that he isn't, and we stopped believing what we know, and we started dividing. And I can't take credit for it, but the more I thought about it, the division really started there too.
Yeah, you know, that's what I said yesterday on the Will Cain Show, Brian, is I said, at least from my generation, Generation X, I feel like it was the beginning of the realization that the characters are more important than the plot, that the fact's less important than social justice. And although I think we went through an era of racial harmony through the mid-2000s, or at least more racial harmony that ultimately fell apart in about 2013, this was the beginning of everyone understanding reality, but seeing the verdict of insanity. I don't know if you watched the ESPN 5-part O.J. Simpson documentary from a few years back, but, you know, there was a juror in that documentary that gave an interview who said, so you're saying everyone in that jury box, 90%, understood that this was retribution for Rodney King? And she said, yep. And the interviewer goes, do you think that's right? And she goes, don't know, kind of shrugs her shoulders, don't care. This wasn't about O.J. It wasn't about Nicole Brown Simpson. It wasn't about Ronald Goldman. It was about black and white.
Great point. I did not see the documentary, but I was out in Los Angeles for Rodney King. And I remember coming back. I worked in Ontario and lived in Malibu, not the rich part of Malibu, but the time where you can rent a house, rent one room in a house, beautiful view, horrible accommodations, more on that later. And I remember driving back because there was a curfew and looking left and right. Literally the whole city was on fire on both sides of the 10 freeway. And I thought to myself, I'll never see anything like this again. And then we find out the next year we have this drama again in Los Angeles and an earthquake in between, I might add, in California. So it was one crazy time in California at the time.
What year? Wait. So you were there. What year are we talking about?
I was there from 90 to 94. So out in Los
Brian,
Angeles.
I know exactly what you're talking about because that's when I was at Pepperdine from 93 to 97. So you're talking about probably closer to 93, 94.
Yeah.
We had 2 fires and an earthquake, and I was in Malibu. I didn't know my future colleague was also right there in Malibu.
How about, on a side note, on Las Flores Canyon Drive, there used to be the Sea Lion on the other side. Remember the Sea Lion on the other side of the street? It's a new name now. But on Las Flores Canyon Drive, you'd whip around. I lost everything I owned, which wasn't much because I was making probably $23,000 a year. That's before taxes. I was taking home $5.96 every 2 weeks and lived in Malibu. So I literally would ration out my gas per gallon to see if I could get to work every day. So I lost absolutely everything 3 weeks before I got married. But let's make this about OJ. So my wife was really getting nothing but credit card debt. So she was really proud. Not even a place. Although I did get a place in Marina Del Rey, and I was never able to fully live there with her because I got a job back on Long Island, and I've been here since. But I just think I think you brought up a good point. It's not so much OJ. The verdict's out and in. He had to live his own special life of hell, and right now he's experiencing what he's experiencing. And he lived it for 25 years. But this brings us back to where we were at that time, what we thought, and what has happened since. And that's pretty amazing. You know, you got earthquakes, fires, 9/11, great moments in history. World War II started, I guess, for a previous generation. But for us, you don't know anybody that was over the age of 13. Everybody remembers where they were and what was going on at the time.
Yeah, you're talking about the white Bronco car chase, right? Everyone made their way to a television. I was in college. I was at Pepperdine. Where were you? You were you were watching the New York Knicks?
So I'm watching the Knicks games because, as everybody knows, Knicks haven't won the World Championship since 1972. And the Patrick Ewing-led Knicks are leading the Houston Rockets 3-2. One game from winning it all. And still, while they're playing this epic battle, this would last for ages. Too bad when centers really mattered in basketball more than any other position. People were watching, according to the reporters there, I was watching at a sports bar, but watching in the hall the chase and were leaving the game. That's how crazy this was.
So it went for a while because we didn't have cell phones back then, and it was almost like word of mouth. I mean, you had time to make your way to a television. That's how long the car chase went on. You had time to hear about it and get to a television. Brian, you should watch that documentary.
I am.
It's 5 parts.
I will.
So here's another part that I found fascinating about this. So you're a little older than me. I would imagine you remember OJ, the football player. I don't remember OJ, the football player, because I'm a fan. Of course, I know how good he was. But my first introduction was OJ, the celebrity, like OJ, the actor in Naked Gun, OJ, the commentator on television, football broadcasts. They talk about 2 fascinating things in OJ's life. First of all, he did not align himself with the athletes of the 70s like Jim Brown and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He did not want to be a racial justice warrior. He wanted to be a post-racial celebrity. And there was actually some really fascinating analysis in this documentary. Like, in that way, he might have done more for Black America than even the activist, because he was the first black guy in, like, a toothpaste ad or in that famous Hertz rental car ad. And he was doing things to break down racial barriers in America. But then when he is tried for murder, his attorneys like Johnny Cochran and, as you pointed out, Kardashian and Shapiro, they went to his house. So the judge was going to allow the jury to tour his home. And the jury was overwhelmingly black. And they went through and they took down all the pictures of he and his family, all the art that was like quote unquote white, and replaced the furniture with, like, instead of it being Renaissance replica, but more like, you know, something you might find in Watts, replaced the art with like black artists. You know, they created an image of OJ that wasn't OJ to all of a sudden now become the social justice warrior that, as you pointed out at the beginning, becomes the beginning of this entire thing that we live with today of social justice.
And you know that I hosted a show with Jim Brown, and we stayed friends for 25 years. And he was, before OJ killed anybody, he would tell me, he's not who he appears. You think you're going to like, you would not like that guy. He'd say, Brian, he's not a good guy. He comes off nice. He goes, whatever you think of me, I'm me. He goes, and people would know him to play golf with him. And he was getting sloppy. His words to me, he was getting sloppy with his drug use at the time. You know, doing coke in front of fans and doing other things. And they saw that side of him. Now, I didn't know about the domestic abuse. I don't know too many people that did. Maybe the other sportscaster friends did, you know, when OJ would be missing for a weekend or the wives would talk to each other. But the fact that you can hear Nicole Brown saying, I know, you know, scared, you know who he is, and you know with his records, and he's coming over here, and he's going to kill me, and she's actually saying this, and then it happens, and that adds to the unbelievableness of this whole thing, if that's a word, that he gets acquitted on it. But what he meant is quite interesting. I would say this, is that he had everything. And as a player, I never saw him play in person that I remember, but I did go to Shea Stadium a couple of times. I don't know if it was the Bills that I remember. But the grace in which he ran was unbelievable, especially because people were powering people over back then. And then you see this guy who looked like he was in a dance recital, who was just so elusive. And I also remember thinking to myself, he's finally with a good team in San Francisco. I wonder if he'll do well. And he just had nothing left. And at the end, and he just made that instant transition to Towering Inferno. And he did movies in between. And then he just, sportscaster, Battle of the Network Stars. And then we watched him with Naked Gun, showed the sense of humor. He was a guy everybody wanted to book, everybody wanted to talk football with, that the players liked hanging around. And the other thing is, it kind of hurt Marcus Allen. Because Marcus Allen looked up to him, was associated with him, and now he's in the middle of this case, and he had to take his high profile and just drop it and go, listen, I don't want to talk about it for a few years. And I got to know him from interviewing him after he was done. Couldn't be a nicer guy. He's a Fox fan. And after a while, like in the beginning, he's like, I don't want to do any interviews. He didn't do interviews for years because he didn't want this coming up.
I didn't know Marcus Allen was a fan of Fox. That's awesome.
Yeah, or maybe he's just my fan. When people say they watch me, they have to be a fan of Fox. But
that's just
we have very
humility.
Similar athletic ability.
That's just another entry into the example of your humility. You know, people said they're a big fan, and you assume that it means Fox. You know, but in reality, it could very well be. It's just a big fan of Brian Kilmeade.
I couldn't see that.
My wife's a fan. My wife's a fan. The other day, she said, "You know who's funny? Brian. He's funny." I belly laughed. I said, "He's not funny. Not intentionally funny."
See, that hurts my feelings, and I now like your wife better, who I do not believe I have met, and I think that's. And now I know why.
I know. Yeah. Now you know why exactly. Yeah. Got to keep her away from Casanova.
And let me just add this. I know this is his day of semi-mourning, but The Rock used to like me better until you waltzed into Fox, left ESPN. The Rock used to be the guy. I used to be his go-to guy, and now I lost The Rock.
Is that
too.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, but I'm gone now. Well, right? I mean,
for sure.
Do you even talk to other people besides The Rock? Like, do you touch base every day?
We texted 10 times today.
You did not. That is unbelievable. No. Would you just me a favor?
I haven't.
You just text him and you just say, Brian Kilmeade says he knows you, and just see what happens.
I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to tell you why. I haven't texted him 10 times today. And the last text I sent him, I didn't get a response. So I feel like, when you don't get a response, now you start to feel like I don't know how many more that I can send before I feel desperate. So I've only got one or two left in me. And if they don't get a response, then I'm not going to burn up one of my two on Brian.
So I have one person in my life like that, and I overestimated my jelly roll. I overestimated my friendship. I go, we really hit it off. He goes, hey, buddy, take down my number. Let's keep in touch. I'm going to be coming through. I got one text back, so it's 1 to 10. And I texted him congratulations as if he cares of reward just to kind of start it up again. I got nothing.
Wow. That's the play, right? 10-1. You're way over. You became the desperate friend.
Yeah, at this point, they're
You
mocking
became
me.
the desperate friend with Jelly Roll.
Right. It's like I got nobody else. He's probably like, don't you even talk to Ainsley and Steve and Lawrence? Is there anybody else there?
That's the funny thing. If I looked up Kilmeade Will Cain ratio right now, which one do you think that goes?
What do you mean by that?
Text between us.
Oh, me and you?
I feel like, I haven't been put into the position of he's ghosting me, but I'm going to say that it's 2 or 3 to 1. Like, I'll send you something here and there, and I get nothing in response. But I don't feel hurt about it, and I know I'm going to get one eventually. And by the way, I'm a notoriously bad texter. People say I'm awful, and I think you might be worse. Right. Or maybe it's personal to me.
Well, a couple of things. Like, I'll read it. I'll go, okay, that's interesting. And I never think to myself I should answer or say that back to the person. Like when someone hit me with a few things about OJ, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I never thought to myself they were expecting me to say, hey, thanks, or, because I just, got to keep moving. Also, congratulations on the Will Cain Show. So, I mean, you're in the audio business now. We have something else to bond with.
I know. I know, and you just got Dallas for the Brian Kilmeade Show. I think, right? Or you're about to get Dallas?
Well, I told you that in the break for a reason.
Am I not supposed to talk about that?
Yeah. What is wrong with
we
you?
can cut that.
Yeah.
This isn't live.
No, you can leave it.
Live.
May 6th, Dallas is going to get something special. Thank you. Well, appreciate it. Can trust you with anything. Wonder what else is going to come out. No. It's going.
That's
it's
like
gonna
you
be
in
coming
text.
out. I'm going to come down to Dallas too for a special, and I'm going to drag you out with me because I told them within a month I'm coming down there to celebrate going into Dallas. See if they're going to embrace me.
That was like you in text. You told me that day, and I was like, that's awesome. That's interesting. But the details of the date and the speculative nature of it didn't register. Right? So I didn't know that I was crossing or shooting out of the gates too early.
Just remind me, a mental note, don't ever tell Will anything.
Are you a big golfer? You're big into the Masters. You're big into golf.
No, I mean,
aren't you?
I've covered I've covered some major events, especially when they were out east on Long Island. I covered a one Masters, I believe.
But when I'm around you, I feel like you're talking about and you're interested in the Live Tour and lot of these golf stars. But it doesn't come from a place. You're not a golfer. You don't have time to golf. You work all the time.
Well, put it this way: if I had a knack for it, like I could play tennis. I'm not saying I'm great, but if you said to me, "I'm a decent player, you want to play?" I would be able to play. My serve's not great, but I love tennis because you could hustle. With golf, you sit there and you go, "What was I thinking? Like, where was my elbow? Where was my backswing? Where were my feet?" Nothing's natural about it. And I keep saying, I've had some of the most impressive people give me lessons that you can imagine, and it just doesn't stick. But I've been to the players, Sawgrass, some of the best courses. Why, you do?
No, I'm actually very similar to you. Like, I actually wish I played golf. I would like to play golf. All my friends play golf, and I feel like I'm missing out. But this has been going on for 20 years, right? I remember back in law school, they'd go golf, and I'd be like, well, I'll do something else. But, over time, you can't avoid it. So I'll play once a year, twice a year.
How are you? Are you
not
decent?
good?
Oh.
No. But I'm not so bad either that I say I'm never doing this again. I'm just good enough that I say, if I gave a little time to this, I might be respectable. So
I'm hopeless.
But it's not good. But, I'm also embarrassed. I'm not good enough not to be embarrassed. So I don't want to go with a bunch of guys who are playing serious golf. If they're having beers, I'll go. If it's a course with just a couple of guys who also don't play it, I'll go. But I'm not doing country club fancy golf. I'm embarrassed.
So, Will, the other thing is we get invited to a lot of these events. They're like, hey, would you golf in my tournament? And some of them, the Rock's not going to call me anymore. You would at one point. But, like, these people ask you to go. And I always go, are you doing something after? Can I give something to the silent auction? But can you imagine if we're like Bill Hemmer? Bill Hemmer loves golf, goes to everything he's invited to. I know Tom Coughlin invited me to his tournament, and it's in Ponte Vedra where I have a house. And I thought that would be perfect. And I thought to myself, can't. I'll show up after. Give some of the silent auction. Because it would only lessen his view of me. I remember Greg Norman said to me, Brian, would you host my shark shootout? I go, great. He goes, so I want you to be in my foursome. We'll golf together. And I go, absolutely not. And he goes, no, I'll golf with you. I'll help you. I go, nope. You have a certain opinion of me now. It will decrease exponentially if you see me golf. So I'd rather not date you because I know we're going to break up. So that's my theory.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah,
I feel the same way. I'm a no. Any of these like charity, celebrity golf, nope. I'm a no.
Right.
See it. But I will tell myself, I will do this. When's the tournament? How long do I have? Could I get myself respectable before then? So here's my question for you, Kilmeade. If you were invited to play Augusta, of course, the home course of the Masters, which everybody says, that's the best. That's it. That's the top, right? Would you go? Would you take that invitation for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to play Augusta? Not at the Masters, some other time.
If it was a non-tournament thing where I could do it, where it's not one of those, like those, what is it called? What Brett Baer plays in all the time? Doesn't he play those celebrity things?
Right.
So if it was one of those where people aren't gathered around, I would do it. But I would probably need 2 months. And I would commit to playing 5 times a week. That would be it.
You could go with, I think you and I might be golf partners. I think we're
so?
a perfect match.
If I just knew where the ball was going, I could say, wow, what was that? Why did I not try to bend it that? But I just have no idea where the ball is going.
Oh, well, I'm pleased when I get forward progression of the ball, even if it shanks left or right. It's the club face on ball that I hate it when I hit a lot of grass and it goes about 4 feet in front of me or something like that. That's what I'm embarrassed of. And I'll lose all the balls in the sleeve.
Well,
the
guy that I saw swimming with the Navy SEALs, I am shocked that this is the type of game you have. To me, you're probably eminently coachable, and there's so many great golf instructors where you are in Texas. I can't believe you wouldn't take advantage of that, because you know who asked me to golf with them? President Bush and Dan Rooney. So I did that 3 years in a row, and I was able to golf with the president.
And you went out with President Bush?
Yeah, I did 3 times, 3 straight years. Because I would have a chance to talk to him after. And
what did Bush think of you?
He thinks I'm terrible. And he's like, if you say to him, I saw Brian Kilmeade and he said, you guys golf together, before you could say together, he'd go, he is terrible. So, but he kept inviting me back, and Dan Rooney, of course. The guy that I like so much that doesn't get appreciated until you meet him is George W. Bush. He has a great presence about him. Underappreciated, but probably not in Texas. They appreciate him in Texas.
All right, well, even though you don't play golf, I know you like the Masters. We've got the Masters going on this weekend. The LIV players are back, and it's just teed off. So, I'm a big Scotty Scheffler fan now. That's the guy I root for in these kind of things. But, hey, by the way, I can't pin you down either, because you're a soccer guy, but you don't watch soccer, and so I can't talk soccer with you.
I know, it's crazy. I'll bring this up on this tour. This sport, it's not in trouble because it's got its base, but LIV coming in has really imploded this sport. And I'm friends with Greg Norman, and I know he's been ostracized to a degree, but he felt as though the PGA was not rewarding their players. It's too hard to break in. They treat them like old single-A baseball players before they actually make the tour. This gives them an additional opportunity, maybe opens up the purse strings, maybe makes the PGA better. But right now, they're in oblivion. I mean, what the hell is going on? I mean, LIV, there's a merger. There is no merger. How are they coming together? What is team sports? Why are they wearing shorts? Why don't I ever see a LIV tournament on television? Why doesn't anyone care? Where do they get $350 million to play a single golfer? But I just do think that there's got to be some type of, change to the game to make it a little bit more intriguing. I like it. But somebody step up and work this merger. What the hell is going on? Because we know these guys. We know Dustin Johnson. We know these guys. DeChambeau. We got to. But where's the next generation? If you're telling me the PGA's here and LIV's here, that means you're fracturing the audience even more. That means it's going to be harder to get fans involved with 2 tours. I know everyone says no one watches LIV, but if all the best players are here and you're going to continue not to give them points, they're going to have to cave at some point and let them have points. And I'm fascinated where it's at right now. That's what I find intriguing, because these players are going. Where
the $350 million. You know where the money comes from. I mean, that's the Saudi investment
wealth fund.
I mean, yeah.
But how does it make sense?
I'm with you. Well, it doesn't. I mean, the same way it's in the soccer world. It's like it's not a capitalist enterprise. But I'm with you.
Can I segue to soccer for a second?
Yeah.
What I care about and what I think is so intriguing, I'm going to dive into this league sooner or later. But what I find, by the way, I think Alex Ferguson is in a bar right across the street from us.
Really?
Sir Alex Ferguson, yeah. I got texted this morning, and I said, if he ever comes in, please let me know. Rod Stewart goes to that same bar. We had a Christmas party there one time. I think you might remember. So
the musician Rod Stewart?
Yeah, Rod Stewart also. These guys are big soccer guys, and the guy who owns the bar is Irish. And every time they come in, they know to go there. It's like a big soccer bar. Every soccer player knows they get treated like royalty when they go there, and they get privacy. So Sir Alex Ferguson.
So did Rod Stewart text you this morning?
I wish he did, but the guy who owns the club did, and I had a chance to meet him. And he said, what we're going to do is going to work you in, and you're going to get to know him. Then you're going to ask the question, can you interview him? But what I find intriguing, and this is what people should care about, for the first time in my life, we are watching players, American players in their 20s, playing top-level international soccer, not just Pulisic over in Italy. You're seeing them all around. People want a piece of them. We used to see at 32 years old, Landon Donovan playing for Everton coming off the bench. And now we're saying, give me that 19-year-old, 22-year-old. That's all the things that have to happen to compete. Also, if there's anything good about our broken border, you got to think some are soccer players. You know, we're getting all of South America. I mean, so you got to think some are soccer players. And if not, they're going to have kids born here that Pete Hegseth can raise, right, as his own.
So we are increasing the threat of terrorism, but on the other hand, our soccer team might...
It's going to get a little bit better. We're going to get a lot better. The Venezuelans with the neck tattoo. Look, you have great ball skills. Maybe we can reform you.
What position did you play?
Outside back and midfield.
So like fullback, outside back, like right or left back?
It's a
you're talking
70s
about?
term, fullback.
And then...
Yeah. I could use my left foot. I was player, just solid at best. Division II. All my friends were Division I, great players. I was from a huge town of Division I soccer players.
Fast?
Not yet. I was just gaining foot speed when I had to stop playing. I'm going to be like Tom Brady. Tom Brady outran at 46 years old. He outran his 40 when he was in the combines. So I'm going to work on technique.
Did you say not yet, like you're about to start getting fast?
Exactly. I don't want to give up.
Like you're just turning the corner?
That's what I'm saying. All right. I'm saying I don't want to give up. I'm not saying the verdict's in yet. Right? I'm saying that right now you don't want me on your team, but
How old are you?
I might work on it.
How old are you?
How old do you think I am?
I looked it up last weekend or the weekend before, so I know how old
59.
you are.
I'm working on my speed now.
How fast are 59 years old? How fast are you fast? Not yet. 59.
Not yet. I'm going to get there. Hey, listen, Tyson's fighting Jake Paul. If he wins that fight, that'll inspire me to go back playing. I'm going to explore my eligibility.
All right, last thing with Brian Kilmeade here. I am fascinated with what you have to say about this. So Caitlin Clark explodes the ratings in women's college basketball, Brian. 18 million people watched the final, more than watched the men's national championship final. What will happen? Did she just raise the floor for women's college basketball? I don't think so. Clay Travis said it's the Ronda Rousey effect. Once she's gone, women's college basketball will come back down to earth. I think that is true. The question is, will she now have the same ratings effect on the WNBA? Will she bring new attention in the same way she did to women's college basketball to professional basketball?
Okay, number one, I don't have to feign interest in women's sports. I've always pulled for them from day one. And I have two daughters play college soccer. One still playing, one just finished. I coached it. I'm just as into it. So I don't have to fake. Wow, I hope women wish them the best. They play a different style of play. Got it. Understand. So I was there, and I think is this why you brought me to this? Because one of the things they did at New Sport, they said, okay, we're going to give everyone beats. I go, okay, everyone wants baseball and football. I said, give me boxing, give me soccer. They laughed, and I said, you can give me women's basketball. And it was the emergence of UConn, Gina Auriemma, Rebecca Lobo, and Jen Rosati, Carol Walters, who was actually taller than Rebecca Lobo. And I watched the way they played, and I watched the place sell out. And I watched the passion which they had, guys going as crazy as the women, students for them. And I go, this has arrived. And I looked at Tennessee, Pat Summitt. I saw what she did as a player and a coach. I go, this sport has arrived. The rivalry is here. I watched Gino Auriemma is so disappointed that St. John's hasn't put their program together because we need a big team in New York. And I go, this has arrived. I was shocked that after the Olympics, it just kind of went down. Not at Storrs, Connecticut, not at Tennessee, maybe not in South Carolina, but it didn't catch on. Then they launched the WNBA, and no one promotes it. Nobody's out at the CYOs and the youth league saying, go to the game tonight. So Madison Square Garden, they literally had nobody at the Liberty, and they all are absorbing losses until they decide giving it some attention. Know what they have to do? It's back to the wide world of sports thing. Why do we care? Why do we care about these players, fighters? Because we used to watch, and I'm older than you, obviously, Howard Cosell, tell me about these fighters. Tell me about these players. He got me to care about it. And then when I watched them, I cared. Sell me about people other than Caitlin Clark. These people got great stories. Sell me about them. Then when they match up, I'm ready to go. You know who's done this brilliantly? UFC. If you put on ESPN, they tell me about these fighters, 15 minutes and 15 minutes. And next thing you know, I'm caught up. I watched that guy. I got to care about the players, and they have great stories. They all don't have to be the best. But what Caitlin Clark has got to do, what Rebecca Lobo didn't. She was not a dominant player in the next level. Lisa Leslie was. So she's got to find a way to dominate. If she becomes a Freddie Adu in soccer, if she becomes somebody that has trouble getting off the bench, in basketball you can't hide. So when she's not hitting any shots, if he can't get her shot up, she's not quick enough. I think she is.
She's going to be great.
You think so?
No, yes, she's legit. She's good. She's going to be great in the WNBA. I don't know. Well, listen, I'm with you. I used to have this debate, Brian. So first of all, I'm with you on stories. That's why we watch. That's why we care. We want stories. But that being said, I used to have this debate on ESPN all the time that with women's athletes, advocates, like they would say the reason that there's not more attention on women's sports is it doesn't get the media attention. And it's like a little bit of a tail wag the dog, like her chicken or egg thing. Like, do you need an audience to be there for the media industry around it to want to be there? Or is it vice versa? And I just don't know. I think Caitlin, I forget who has the top pick. It's the Indiana team. I just don't know what they're called.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But I think there's a built-in mechanism that makes you care about the Tennessee Lady Volunteers, the Lady Vols, the Yukon Lady Huskies, the Lady Longhorns. The people care in a collegiate environment, and they don't care about the New York Liberty, the Dallas Wings, the Chicago Sky. And, okay, how do they start to care? I hear you on the stories. That's part of it. They need a star. They need more stars like Caitlin Clark. But I'm a little pessimistic on, like, this is going to be a big moment for the WNBA.
I would say this. I mean, they got to do the grind work that soccer had to do for years. They would go into the clubs. They'd have the players go in and say, I want you to meet the center forward with the Cosmos. I want you to meet the such and such, the Rapids. And they'd go in and be part of the community. And next thing you know, that player, you don't give the tickets away, but you give them certain passes. You do the things that they do in youth sports. You bring the players down there, and the 8-year-olds get to play against 8-year-olds before the game and after the game. And then these kids sign autographs, and you get the autographs signed for them, and you sign the balls for them. And then you create these relationships. It's grassroots. You pay them a little bit more. The NBA pays better. But you have to just tell these ladies, you are football when college football in the 60s. You are soccer in the 70s. He goes, I even know it doesn't seem fair. You just got to go sell this thing. Whoever thought UFC, I did the first 4, would be one of the hottest sports in the country. They would go out and meet the people. They would go sign the autographs. They'd meet the fans. They'd be accessible in the gyms. I would go back and do that. Go out and earn it. Tell the stories. And I would say the other thing to bring up, I need girls to watch women play sports. They have to watch.
100%. Yes.
Get the women, get the moms.
Yes, you can't just have it be the men saying, hey, you need to watch women's sports too. Where are the women watching women's sports?
Right. Yeah, my daughter says to me, would you bring me to the Garden for a Knick game? She never says bring me to the Liberty game. She played soccer all through high school. And I go, wow, that's interesting.
Right.
Yeah, the Warriors coming into town. And, part of it is they're not anywhere. I mean, I would put the posters in the schools. You know how to do it. Marketing people watching us right now, they know how to do it. They were selling indoor soccer for a while by going out to these teams and, hey, that's the guy that came to my practice. That's the woman that came over and told me how to shoot. You know, we used to see with soccer, like Carly Lloyd still runs clinics. In the beginning was get the word out about the national team. We used to have open practices, invite the clubs down to watch them practice. Then the coach would turn around and have a coaches club meeting with all the local coaches, and the national team coach used to talk to them. Many people go, well, I'm above that. Not really. You know, you're not. It's not that big. There's only a soccer and basketball. It's you're eighth, you're ninth.
That's
Hockey,
right.
it's got to work harder than NBA. Sorry, doesn't mean you're less of an athlete. Tell lacrosse players, these are the best athletes in the world. We got the best lacrosse players that win the world championships. Guess what? They got to have other jobs. It's just the way it is.
Right. You're not LeBron James. It's not the NBA. You need to compare. That's great. That's a great analogy. You got to compare yourself to lacrosse or soccer of the 70s.
Yeah. Doesn't mean you're less. It just
up.
means this is the American appetite right now in sports. I mean, I hear in Ireland they're watching men's field hockey. All right? So I'm not going to, but I appreciate their culture.
They
right
have
now,
men's
our
field
culture,
hockey?
Yeah. You didn't know
I thought that was lacrosse.
No,
I thought field hockey was for girls.
Scotland.
Oh.
Right. No, they'll play field hockey. And think about it. Why is it girls? And why is that stick so small? I mean, has everyone got scoliosis? You're bent over so much. I mean, can you give them a normal-sized stick?
You're exactly right. You're so hunched over. That's got to be bad for your back.
Absolutely. And by the way, do you ever fall on turf, on field hockey turf? We used to practice on it sometimes. It will tear your whole epidermis off. Why they do this to people?
Why is that stick so small?
Right. Can you lengthen it?
All right. Brian Kilmeade, what a wonderful mess, as it always is.
Right.
One of my favorites.
Why did you have me on OJ?
Check out.
OJ's dead.
Why did I have you on OJ?
No,
OJ's
you
dead?
had me just to put a bow on it. We started with OJ. Let's end with OJ. OJ dead. 74.
Yeah. There's the bow on it. OJ dead. Yeah. Thank you, Brian Kilmeade.
Go get him, Will.
There you go. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Brian Kilmeade. You can always catch the Brian Kilmeade radio show, 9 to noon Eastern time, or subscribing to the podcast at Fox News Podcast. Until next time, I'll see you next time.